You've got a good number now, so I'll just I'll kick off by just introducing Matthieu, and also some background to this talk. So my name is Edmund. I'm the co-founder of a company called ISHKAR, which specializes in connecting countries that have been disconnected from the rest of the world by war through a mixture of trade, travel, and storytelling. And so we've done a lot of work in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, Mali, Yemen, Iraq. And last year we did our first trip to northern Pakistan with Matthieu, who led a group into the Hunza Valley, and we spent 10 days together last May. And we've been following Matthieu's work for a long time. I think, looking at all these names of all the participants and seeing, we only advertised this talk a few days ago, but we immediately got so many requests to join the talk, and I think that speaks to the universality of the attraction of Matthieu's work.
Thank you.
And it's difficult to put a finger on just why it's so attractive, but for me, seeing your work, Matthieu, was the first time I had come across it, and I think so many photographers have been to that part of the world, and it's naturally a very photogenic place. But what makes your images striking, I think, is not only they're very visually striking, but you seem to get so much out of your the subjects of your photographs, and I think that must be down to the way in which you go so deep in building relationships with people, understanding the communities in which you're photographing, and that seems like a really strong marker for a lot of your work. Well, and so I'd love to. We'll start the talk by asking you a few questions, and then
I'm blushing. Stop that. No, I'm serious. It's wonderful what you're saying, because that's what I'm striving to do, and because I'm so deeply in love often with the places I visit, I just want to do one thing, is share that level of humanity that I'm experiencing, and it's been my life work. And I tell you, every other day, I think I'm doing a really terrible job at it. So it's really, really nice to hear that. I think every photographer in their right mind should be doubtful of their level of their work, and should be struggling eventually a little bit mentally to in a way that, am I doing justice to what I'm seeing? And it's been my struggle, and it is still my struggle. Just a few days ago, wanting to do something meaningful, it can be so hard. And so I really appreciate this comment that it did hit you, and somewhat you felt that level of depth that I'm trying to constantly create with my images. And yes, it starts with having, time is the greatest advantage on your side. And also my history with this place, I've been often in countries, I've worked all over the world. My ground is really the Western Himalaya, emotionally, and also through my life history. It wasn't a Google search about, wow, a cool place. Those Kyrgyz in Afghanistan, of those Burusho in Hunza look really amazing. Let me go there and take some pictures. It was not that. And I think it's very important that you listen to the way life is pulling you to a place, and you let these doors open up that will lead you to a place. And it really has to come from inside. And this is what happened with Pakistan. This is what happened with the Western part of the Himalayan world. It was just really something that was pulling me. And it wasn't based on stuff that I saw that looked good and it looked beautiful, and let me go there because I want to be there. But it looked so good. No, it was other reasons.
be great, yeah, to press a bit on that. Like, what is,
Okay.
you obviously do have some sort of magnetic attraction to,
Well,
Afghanistan,
you know,
northern Pakistan. What
if
is
I
it?
can go back to the initial reason that I went there, I went to in '99 to do volunteer work for a trekking company that was doing snow leopard conservation. And I was also, since it wasn't going to be a full-time occupation, I was also volunteer teaching. And that's something that I've also noted in my life is whenever you do stuff seemingly for free out of your goodwill, and you know, it's always not that I'm looking for ways to get something out of it, but it will always open doors to you in terms of yeah, like it will always open doors to you. And this is what happened with Pakistan. I went there to work on this, establishing this trekking company as a volunteer, and we were taking people in areas where there's snow leopard predation. And the profit of the company that was generated from the trekking, from bringing people trekking there, was used to reimburse shepherds whose livestock had been attacked by snow leopard. So for them, instead of going and shooting snow leopard because they were killing their herds, and understandably, this is their livelihood, we would offer like an insurance fund that was generated from trekking, from taking people there. So I was hired to kind of go and check out the potential routes. But frankly, when I met this person that offered me this opportunity, I didn't even know there were mountains in Pakistan. I didn't even know that part of the world well. And yeah, that was just the beginning of my involvement there back
And
in 1999.
how did you develop the skills, the actual hard skills to start photographing these regions in the way you did? Because there's a huge relationship element to what you do. That's, getting these intimate images is a lot of craft in it. But in terms of the
Well,
actual technical skills of,
that's
composition.
exactly why a workshop can be useful, because I can tell you all this stuff, but then in the end, it's really being underground, walking and being in an environment that inspires you and paying attention. This is where it's you need to be immersed to really understand. First of all, like one big thing for me is communication. And at first, even though, well, in Pakistan, most people speak English, even in this mountain region, they are really highly educated and they speak very good English. But I really wanted to also learn Urdu. So I learned Urdu over the years. And so this is one way of me to connect with people. And then eventually I also learned another ethnic language there, which is Wahi. And so I can speak quite okay Wahi. And so that was a way also for me to create that intimacy, that direct connection with people, not having to deal with translator, or even if the person speaks English, being able to speak in another language that they're familiar with and that they assimilate with, is really like opening up a lot of doors when I'm working. But it's so much about body language. It's so much about being able to get into an intimate setting. For example, you enter a very intimate setting and you see something very beautiful. As a photographer, the last thing you want to do is connect to it visually, because if you start looking at it, the person sees you looking at you, and there you engage the dialogue, and there you're being seen as a guy with a camera, and it can really screw up the balance, and you might destroy this very beautiful and this very fragile moment of beauty. So you don't want to interfere with it. So even though your first instinct would be to take up your camera and photograph it and look at this beautiful scene and connect to it visually with your eyes can really destroy the balance the fragile balance of an environment. If you look at it, the way you look at it, the way you look at it is very important. So all these little things I learned over the years, but certainly at the beginning, I'm still learning, and my photography has evolved. I photograph very differently than what I used to photograph 20 years ago. I've been doing this job for about 20 years.
How would you describe that, the kind of arc of your career then? Like how has your photography evolved over the last
well, I think at the beginning, you want to take pretty pictures, you want to take amazing picture, and you see these single images, and you're trying to craft these beautiful images. You're trying to surprise yourself in terms of, you know, not completely controlling, maybe, you know, being unfamiliar with your equipment or something like that at the beginning can be a really something very useful, because if you start controlling too much your equipment, controlling too much your environment, you don't leave any door open to serendipity, you know, to like happy accidents and stuff like that. So one thing I learned at the beginning, sure, I was trying to take beautiful pictures and I started to get kind of okay at it. But then the next thing that is a lot more interesting is understanding how things are interconnected and creating stories and creating different layers in your images. And these layers are created because you understand your environment. And so often when I'm photographing, I'm also writing captions in my head. I see a scene and I'm seeing that, and I'm writing the caption in my head. And if the caption can add something on top of what I'm seeing these layers of understanding that are created. You know, I don't know if this is clear to you, but for me, this is a good test of photographing an environment and like I will photograph this old man, like I did a walk across the desert in South Pakistan last year. And I'm talking to this old man that looked like your grandfather and my grandfather, you know, just like a chill, like dude. And then if you start talking to people and if you're curious, you understand that these people have an incredible, they're sitting on the history of their life. And if you spend time to listen to them, and if you know how to get them to make, you know, to be too confident, I don't know if you can say that, to confidence in you, their life story and their intimate stories or whatever, you realize these people have incredible stories. And then suddenly this seemingly nice portrait I have of him is for me a lot more powerful, because there's something amazing about him that he told me, how he tried to tame tiger once when he was near Lahore, and how he was dropped by a helicopter in the middle of the ocean in the Arabian Sea.
Live, guys.
Sorry?
Sorry about that.
Hola. So, you know,
how does that that desire fit with the kind of the pressure from Instagram and from this type of photography? Because there is this kind of, you know, we're scrolling, and also one of the powerful, like, I think your work is kind of uniquely adapted in a funny way to Instagram as well, because you do have visually arresting images, but at the same time you have these strong stories behind them. How do you kind of how do you weigh up those two things? And do you think Instagram and some of the other mediums in which photography have consumed have changed the way in which either you work yourself or you know, other photographers are working?
Well, I mean, Instagram or not, I don't care really. I mean, for me, it's like looking at the picture now of that guy, you know, I want to know what sport he was playing. I know we're in Pasu. I can't remember his name, but if I look in the caption, I'll have his name. I want to know, you know, why has he been like putting so much cream on for the sun? Like, why don't you want to get dark? Like, what is it? Oh, because, you know, I need to, like, all these layers of understanding. If I can bring them to any medium, Instagram or whatever, or just by sharing it with you, I make this person a lot more, the complexity of that person comes alive and connects us all, you know. And this is what I want. I want to connect us all with my images, and I want to show you that this guy or your neighbor or have the same worries, have the same beauty, have the same struggle, and there's not anyone on earth that is uninteresting to me. That's just not possible. It doesn't exist. Or you just don't have the right frame of mind that day, or you don't have the energy to ask. But there's always something beautiful and mysterious about anybody, you know, anybody. And I want to share that. yeah, if I can bring it on Instagram or on stories for National Geographic, or sharing it while I'm in, you know, on workshop or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's my I've been blown away by the seemingly normal people so much that I want people to be blown away as well. It's just a deep desire to share, you know. Because when I share, then I feel alive, I guess. I feel, you know, it's probably selfish in the end. I'm very egocentric, but, you know, I'm not hurting anyone when I'm doing that. So I'll just keep on doing it.
And do you think that's also maybe part of the reason for your attraction to places like Pakistan and Afghanistan?
Yes,
They
100%.
feel maybe their story isn't the story that we consume of those countries isn't necessarily the full story.
Exactly. And it's directly linked to my experience. Having lived in Pakistan in 99, I started to go there. So I did this trekking stuff at the beginning. I was doing volunteer teaching in a small village in Kachura up north in Baltistan, near Skardu, near a town called Skardu. I was teaching English, you know. Soon enough, I realized I wasn't patient enough. So, and then the Aga Khan Foundation got a hold of us, and we started to work, my wife and I, doing project with them. And so we were just getting immersed slowly, you know, completely green still with the country, and really like not understanding half of what we were seeing. And then September 11 happened. But by then, you know, leading up to September 11, I had kind of gotten the feeling that this place, the human dimension of this place is really something that touches me deeply, and I really feel for it. And I just feel really connected to that. And there's just this kind of lightness of being, and this wonderful kind of, yeah, lightness of being that I just got me really hooked. And then September 11 happened, and I was in Pakistan around then. I was actually trekking in the mountain on September 11. I had no idea until September 13th that there has been, you know, this drama going on. And then suddenly, it's a bit long to explain the whole thing, but by then I was based in New York, so I was based in the US. So September 11 happened. I'm still in Pakistan. I have all these jobs lined up with NGOs. You know, I'm just starting to establish myself, trying to understand, you know, what it is to produce work for NGOs and stuff. And all my job got canceled because of what happened. And then also magazines started to contact me saying, hey, can you go down to Islamabad and photograph the mobs that are burning US flags, and, you know, there's like unrest. And I'm like, well, I'm a photographer that is just starting up. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. Yes, that sounds great. What a time job to go and photograph. Yes, I'll do it. And so I went in and photographed these mobs, you know. But when I was doing that, there was somewhat of an uneasy feeling that I don't think this is my mission, you know, there as a photographer. Maybe this is interesting financially because I'm just starting, and like anybody, I'll need some money to live. But is it really what I want to do? And then soon enough, I realized I didn't want to do this kind of job, and I kind of stopped, and I went back to the mountains. But then when I went back to New York after this trip, suddenly the understanding of where I had been before, it's been already a year and a half that I had been talking to my friends about this, but for them, Pakistan was maybe some country they couldn't really place in the map or whatever. But then suddenly they were like, oh, I've heard of this country, Afghanistan, Pakistan and stuff. You're nuts. You're completely nuts to go there, man. It's really dangerous. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Well, who knows? Like, you have me in front of you and I've been there. Why don't you ask me? Why do you rely on secondhand information that you get from CNN or whatever? When you have me in front of you, just ask me, because I'll be happy to share you my experience. And then this became my life mission, kind of, you know, telling the other side of the coin of this region that are stigmatized and you know, too easily stigmatized. And yeah, that was a long way to answer your question, but yeah, this is my kind of, that's the flag I'm holding, you know, when I'm there, when I'm shooting stories. That's the stories I'm looking for.
And does that mean that you will turn down some types of work if people wanted you to?
Well,
depending on who the payer is, but
yeah,
they don't align with your, maybe they have an editorial line which is different.
Yeah, I don't think, I've done a couple of harder stories, but editors of magazine, usually they won't reach out to me for this kind of stuff because they know it's kind of clear now that, these just, they are good enough to understand that this is not going to be something I might be good at or that fits my line of, my kind of my work, so it just doesn't happen. But I would consider it because I'm not saying I think it's essential that photographers that go and photograph unrest and some of the horrible things that happen in this region, they are essential. They must exist. They must do their work. But I think I'm as important of showing the other side just to give justice, because remember, these are all government issues often. The people on the ground, the people living in this mountain, you can see on the pictures or whatever, they have nothing to do with all this. So how can you just put people into one box and say, hey, you're nuts to go to Pakistan? There, I heard it's really, really dangerous. Yeah, okay, well, there's a couple of crazy guys, but, please, hold on a second. Let me show you the work. Let me show you what I've experienced. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, I'm gonna bring in my colleague Electra, who traveled with you to Pakistan last year, and just briefly touch. I think he's going to ask you some questions about that trip and about your experience of it, and for everyone's benefit. So we're traveling again with Matthieu to northern Pakistan in May with a group of people, and we can give you details about that trip.
I'm seeing some questions. Sorry, Ed, I'm seeing some questions in the chat. We can answer that later. Maybe kind of monitor
exactly,
it.
yeah, we'll do another kind of 5 minutes or so of questions from our side, and then we'll hand it over to the audience. So if you want to start thinking of your questions, that would be great. So I'll just hand it over to Electra now, just to take over.
Hello. Yeah, so I just leading on from what you're saying about Pakistan and presenting the kind of positive or the more nuanced side of the country. Why do you think the region of northern Pakistan, so the Hunza region and Karakoram Mountains, is a particularly fascinating place to take a group of curious travelers, and particularly travelers who maybe have more interest in photography specifically?
Well, to me, probably the reasons that drew me there at first is you travel, very far from my native France. I traveled to go, to go to Pakistan, and you end up in these remote valleys, and the image you have of a remote valley in Afghanistan or in Pakistan or in Tajikistan was not, I was also a victim of my own preconceived idea of what I should expect there. But then when I arrived, I saw people that were surprising me very much physically like me. That look like my neighbors in Normandy, north of France. And I was like, wow, let me understand that. How is it even possible? The mysterious ways that human migration has worked and brought these people over mountain region through Iran or God knows what. Now it's buried in the mysteries of history. But that's one reason that kept me going back there, is that I felt somehow a connection, not only on an emotional level, but on a physical level in terms of the people's face and everything that really touched me, and that brought me back again and again to revisit these places again and again over the years. And then I was hooked, because the beauty of the mountain is one thing, and I don't know if you can get bored of it, but certainly the beauty of the people you meet there, that's something I'll never get bored of. So that's it's just a matter of, it just personally give me so much energy to go there, and so much hope and belief. And God knows all the stuff we're going through nowadays. It's just going there is just a boost of positivity and energy that carries me, for months or years after that. So that's why I'm kind of hooked now, and I don't think I'll ever be able to not go there, every once in a while.
And we saw that when we were there with you, that you do have those really strong connections with a lot of people, and there was a lot of old friends who were really excited to see you, and that I know that you enjoyed introducing us to. One who particularly comes to my mind is Alam Jan.
Yes.
So I wonder if you could just speak a moment and tell people about him and some kind of his story and why he's so fascinating for us to visit.
Well, it's in a really, really remote valley. Actually, in that valley right there, this is in the Reshid. I believe it's in the Reshid, that picture right there. Is just maybe an hour drive to Alam Jan's home. And behind the mountain on the right there, behind the ridge, you go into Afghanistan. And so these people are Wahi people. They are Wahi people in Pakistan, in this remote part of northern Pakistan, of northern Hunza, called Gojal. And so these Wahi people are in Pakistan. They are on the other side of the mountain in Afghanistan. They are in Tajikistan further north, and they are in China, in Western China, in Xinjiang. So they are split over 4 countries. So they're really interesting because depending on which country they are in, they really got influenced by their countries, and their language also got slightly tweaked and stuff. So Alam Jan is from this valley, and the first time I came, I think it was in September 2000. I came to trek and try to see if I could walk into Afghanistan over a high pass just behind that family there. And then I got welcomed by this dude Alam Jan, who was wearing a pink fleece in front of his house and had a long ponytail. And I was like, oh, dude, there's another foreigner here. That's really nice. I can maybe catch up. And he's like, no, I'm from here, man. I'm born here. So, he's an interesting character. He's been writing poetry for years. He's a musician. He's a guy that has been taking me on the wildest treks, really exploratory trek. And so he's, now we're just old friends, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about and reconnect. So it's always really nice to go there for me.
Yeah, no, it was such a pleasure to meet him with you, along with a lot of other people.
That picture here is actually a relative of Alam Jan, the guy on the right. And this couple there, that was a story I did for National Geographic, kind of a long-term project, where I went with my family in 2017. I went with my wife and 2 kids, and we spent a couple of months in Gojal. And what's really interesting is that these 2 people here, they met through social media, and it's really interesting. I saw one of the questions that came in the chat, if I, things changing in the area, and if I'm revisiting places and stuff. And yes, of course, this is the whole point for me, to go back to the same people and the same villages, and sometime kind of stray off and discover new areas. But I really like to see how things change, and the way the region has been changing throughout the years because of the influence of social media is huge. It's difficult to express in images, but you can imagine in these very tightly knit villages, it's always difficult for boyfriend and girlfriend to meet up or whatever, because whatever they do, everybody sees them. So social media is a wonderful way to avoid that by messaging through Facebook. So anyway, this couple originally met through Facebook, and now they're married. So that was part of a story I did for National Geographic on the changes of that region.
Nice. That kind of, if anyone does have questions, now is the time to start putting them in, so we can direct them to Matthieu. So what is it that you're most looking forward to when we go back? Is there a particular part of the trip that you really enjoyed that you're most looking forward to this year?
This is sorry, but you're picking the right picture. This is Iskander. This is Alam Jan's son. And in the back there in the distance is Zutrun, where we're actually going on the workshop. We're going in this valley. This is the valley of Chapursan. This is on the right is the Karakoram range, and on the left where the kid is, where ISHKAR is the beginning of the Pamir mountain range. So it's just the beginning. And I completely forgot what you asked me, Electra. Sorry.
Well, I mean, maybe it's that. The question was, what was one of the highlights or the parts, so a place that we went to or a person that we met that you're most looking forward to kind of revisiting this year?
I wouldn't say there's not one specific place. Really, for me, is reconnecting and seeing people's face if I show up unannounced. Or getting stopped in the bazaar in Gilgit or in Hunza or in Karimabad or in, Sost or whatever by people, and then I need to look at them and like kind of go through all these millions of faces that I've met in the region and be like, where the hell did I meet that guy? And then just really I always look forward to the
surprises,
the laughter and that lightness of being that I was talking about, that is really so energizing. It's really, really wonderful. So that's what I look forward to. And sure, breathing that mountain air and being in the region there is always amazing.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so we have a question from Ed. He's saying, how do you look at your own work critically?
How do I what?
Look at your own work critically. So I guess the process.
Oh, wow. How do you look at your work critically? Like, well, that's the only way I look at my work, critiquing it in my mind and thinking, well, actually, it's been really good for me to look at my work and be bothered because the picture is good. But people will look at it and say amazing, but I was there and I know that it could have been a lot better because of this, because of that. And so now I'm really, because of this critiquing of my personal critiquing of my work, looking at stuff, I always, when I'm there in the field now, I'm a lot more in tune with being a lot more aware of how else I should position myself or what else I should be doing to improve that picture or make it more of a meaningful picture. That might be engaging with the person, like this guy here, he's a spiritual leader of Hussaini village. And I thought that was great because, look at him with his down jacket. And actually, we met him. You met him, Electra. You met that guy. Nobody did. When we were walking across the bridge to go on the other side,
I was too scared.
Yeah, probably. But I crossed paths with him. But I love the fact that he's a spiritual leader. He's kind of he's a spiritual leader. He's a Muki. You say that in Ismaili culture. There are Ismaili people there. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So another question that actually is particularly current to what we were talking about with Instagram and photography for using Instagram as a medium is the square format. So how?
Yeah, I see Humayun's picture. Hi, Humayun. How are you, my friend? Humayun is a dear friend of mine. Well, I actually shot back in 2008, 2009, 2010. I was shooting medium format for a while in film. So I had a camera that could shoot square, and shooting square is a complete different. The way your eye work is completely different because you don't have the right and the right and the left, the tension you can create within a frame, a normal 35 millimeter frame, that where you want to create tension, where you have like a canvas that is very different to create tension in terms of composition on the left, on the right. With square format, everything kind of fall in the middle, right? Because of the proportion of the frame. So when I was shooting medium format back in the days and I was shooting film, I really enjoyed it. And then the digital era came in and I went back to shooting 35 millimeter format with, I was using Canon for a while. And then nowadays I went back to medium format digital. And what I love about it is that you can actually change the format. So you can shoot 645 ratio, which is not 35 millimeter. It's a little bit less rectangular than 35 millimeter, but you can also switch the format in the camera and shoot square. And so I really enjoy as an exercise, because as I was saying earlier, I like to be a little bit out of my game in terms of controlling the environment, controlling the composition. And so as an exercise, I started to shoot square quite a lot a few years back, probably most likely influenced by Instagram, you know, because I started to look at a lot of images square, and I had kind of nostalgia for the square format that I used to shoot. And so I invested in a medium format, and then I went back to be able to shoot square and also, you know, sometime 6:4:5. I see a lot of questions. Oh, I don't hear you anymore. I think you are, Electra, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, quick question from Zane that was I missed before about Fairy Meadows in 2017. Did you get to visit that?
No, I have not been. No, I've never, you know, I'm kind of, this is the only like super famous place where I have not been. I don't know why. I just, the wind didn't blow me that way yet, but maybe I'll go one day. Yeah.
Hopefully. And then another question about the kind of exoticization of people and the places where you've been, so Pakistan, Afghanistan. Can you share how you've aimed to mitigate that with your work, and what responsibility do Western artists hold around that, because it's been happening for centuries?
Yeah, that's a big discussion that is going on also at National Geographic. And, you know, my responsibility as a photographer is to document and give justice to what I'm seeing. That's it. I can't do more. This is already like a full-time job, I'm telling you, when I'm in the field. This is how much I can do. After this, it's kind of a sensitive topic, but I don't know. I feel my understanding of a country that I'm not born in is going to be very different than, say, if somebody from Hunza, and there's a lot of wonderful photographers in Hunza, they're really like getting stronger and stronger, and I'm all there to support that. I think it's wonderful. I think but the vision of their home is going to be very different from the vision from what I'm seeing. So I think there's value in both. And I'm not, there's this discussion at National Geographic, a lot of trying to give the camera to people that are from the region you photograph, and stop from the, you know, classic middle-aged white guy like me from walking and photographing and making it. I'm not trying to make anything exotic. I'm trying to make it very real. I'm not, and I'm very excited about this beautiful grandmother that is talking on her mobile phone. I'm not going to ask her, hey, can you put away the mobile phone, because it doesn't really cool, like, you know, it doesn't really like it's confusing. I want you to be exotic. No. I want that phone because I love that contrast. I love that new world coming into this very traditional region. So I'm not going to try to manipulate anything and make it look, you know, more exotic or whatever. But I'm saying that what I would love to see is a guy from Hunza. I don't know if it will be possible in the future. It's already probably happening, but a guy from Hunza going to my hometown in France and photographing that, I think the value of their work would be amazing, because they would see stuff that I don't see. And I see the value in me going there, because there's stuff that I see that people being born there are not really going to see, or they're going to see it differently. So I think there's really values in both ways. I don't know if it was really the exact question, but that's something I like to talk about, because it's something that's really interesting to reflect on.
Yeah, but you're right. It's a huge topic as well.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to have another talk around that coming up soon. There's like a question about, so obviously this region has given you so many gifts and shaped your path so strongly. Ryan's asking, what is one of the kind of gifts that you hope to give to participants who might be traveling with you on this workshop, or just people you come across, aspiring photographers or people who would kind of like to take a similar route as you?
Sorry, I didn't really get the question. What is one of those gifts you're trying to?
A gift.
Yeah. What do you mean by gift?
I guess. I don't think Ryan can, I think all the participants are muted, but I mean, maybe like
Yeah.
a key tip, key
For me,
advice.
for me, the one gift, the number one gift I want to bring to people, number one gift is the minimum I should bring to people when I'm there and interacting and I enter the house and I enter the intimacy or whatever, is bring them joy. It's simple as that. You know, I want to bring joy. I don't want to be the clown, but I want to bring some level of, when I walk away, when I leave that room where I was, that house where I was, I want them to be like, oh, that was nice. That was cool to see Matthieu again. You know, we had a good time. He was, you know, that's really nice to catch up. And, you know, I like the guy. I hope he comes back. That's what I want to leave. I don't want to be one of these photographers that is super centric on their camera and trying to, and ready to push people aside to get their pictures taken. This raised the hair on my back. I hate that. I want to be the opposite of that guy. I don't want to be the guy that comes back from a trip and say, well, it was a great trip. I shot 20,000 images in 10 days. I'm thinking, well, if you shot 20,000 images in 10 days, you probably don't really know what you're doing. You need to pace yourself. You need to breathe. You need to interact with people. That's why, that's the gift I want to try and bring, is a level of joy, you know. And then if we're talking about more material stuff, well, I want, with my work, I want, and I know that has worked in the past, I want people to rethink their understanding of regions in general all over the world. That's applicable to Pakistan, Afghanistan, places where I've worked a lot, but it should apply to any country. Stigmatizing regions is very dangerous. And I want people to rethink that. And when they look at my work, rethink that. This is my gift to this region, kind of, you know, maybe humbly I try.
I mean, that leads quite nicely to Gavin's question, which is, considering the massive changes in Afghanistan and elsewhere within the past 9 months, do you think northern Pakistan is as safe now, or is the region even more volatile now?
Pakistan is the safest. I mean, North Pakistan 100% is the safest place I've ever been in terms of on so many levels. And it's like, you know, when things are happening in Pakistan and my friends in France are worried about me going there, I give them the example of this island in south of France called Corsica, which is in the middle of the Mediterranean, you know, sea. And I'm like, well, if there were some riots in Paris, would you be worried about me going to Corsica? It's like, you might as well be in another country. So yeah, I'm like, you know, over the 20 years when I've been there, there's been so many crises in the region. There's been fighting with India or the Kashmir region or whatever. It never really affected people on the ground, you know. I mean, September, what affects them is the eye of the world on their region, but practically in the ground, nothing changed. People are there dealing with their life, dealing with the potato field and making sure they have enough money to send their kids to school. It stops right there, you know. So yeah, it's very safe.
Yeah. Some questions from Layla, who's saying, talking the language must help kind of break down barriers, and how, what do you often continue the conversation with the people who you photograph by showing them photographs afterwards, either when you're there, or is it when you revisit the region that you bring photographs back or show them in other ways?
Yeah, well, things have changed the last 4 or 5 years now. There's 3G coverage in a good part of North Pakistan, in Hunza. Even when we were there, Electra, they were opening a 4G signal in Chapursan. And so that allows me through WhatsApp or whatever to share my work down the line. If people are interested, I'm too happy to do it. And, you know, I'm not going to ask everybody their WhatsApp, because it's also break the flow. And really, maybe they don't really, a lot of them, they couldn't care less, you know. They just see me taking pictures, but they don't, you know, they're not particularly interested in seeing the work or the images that I'm getting. Yeah, it's in very remote region, more in Afghanistan, in the Wakhan, in the Pamir, where it's incredibly remote. You need to walk for a week to reach that region. There I bring back printed images that I hand over. And sometimes I do it, and I've done it in Pakistan as well, where I print my image. I usually laminate them and I just bring and give them as gift, or, you know, if there's been like a newborn or whatever, or if somebody passed away and I had photographed them, then I'll do that. And, you know, people are really happy about it.
Yeah. Another question, kind of go back to what you said about the swap, the photographer swap. Somebody, Mirik, is asking, have you pitched that to National Geographic yet?
Have you pitched what?
The idea about the photographer, so a photographer from Hunza coming to Norway.
No, maybe I should.
Good.
I mean, you know,
I think you
maybe
should.
I should. I'll need to find the right kid in Hunza that could pull it off. It would be a great experiment for sure. Yeah.
Story. Has anyone got any other questions? I'm just trying to see if I've missed any in the chat.
I'm seeing the last.
Oh, your son traveling with your so Timo. How was it traveling with Timo in Pakistan? And you travel with your children quite a lot, so
not quite a lot, but I try once a year to bring them. And on that last trip, I had my youngest son come along. I've done, well, my kids are homeschooled since almost 3 years, so pre-COVID. So it was really out of conviction. We really wanted to have them homeschooled, and so it's been an interesting journey. And that means that sometime when I go on assignment or on workshop, more likely on workshop because it's a bit easier, then they come along, and it's amazing, you know, because it's really traveling is such a school for breaking down your preconceived ideas. And a 10-year-old kid will have ideas already about the world, and they are shaping their ideas, and being able to bring them to this region and seeing their mind open up to how people are different and always the same kind of is really something I love doing. Yeah.
Nice. I think question from Eleni.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, you answer.
Well, she's asking if I always ask people for permission before photographing them, for example, when it's a group of people. No is the answer, because I do ask sometime, but 90% of the time, 95% of the time, if you take your camera out and you eye contact with the person and you kind of just nod up or whatever, this is the permission I'm asking. I can feel it. You develop that second sense of understanding if this is okay or not, and it's a lot nicer and a lot it's always also about not disturbing what's happening visually in front of you, and it doesn't disturb if you kind of get a sense without having to ask. You know, a lot of things can be asked without using words, and that's what you learn to do as a photographer, and that's what I do a lot of the time. So sure, I'm not going to enter a situation with my camera around my neck and start shooting away. You know, I know there are a lot of photographers doing that. I don't do that. I like to connect. Like, I don't want, on workshop, often I tell people, don't use long lens. I don't want you to use long lens. You need to walk up. I want you to take pictures of somebody if you can touch them with your extended arm. Like, if you can touch them with it, then take the picture. Before that, you don't want, because that moment you can touch the person with the extended arm and take picture of them. That means you have to engage. That means you have to say hi. That means you have to say, how are you? What's your name? What do you do? All this and that. And by doing that, you are creating that layer of understanding. You are breaking your own head, understand these people. You are creating valuable material. You are creating a meaningful caption. You're giving context. Context is so important. You need to understand context. And the world without context is doomed. So to understand context, you need to engage. You need to talk. I spend my time talking. It's exhausting, you know. When you're in the field, I spend my time talking. I know also when to shut up, I guarantee you, but
I guess that's one of the examples of a kind of on the field workshop, photography workshop. that we might be doing, for example, when we're in Pakistan. I wonder, like, what the difference for people who might be interested in traveling with us to Pakistan again. They might be curious about the kind of structure of the workshop. So ones, how many of them we do, or what the difference is between the ones that are on the field or ones that we do sitting around a laptop kind of discussing the technical aspects or the breakdown of a photograph more. Can you briefly just describe the difference about those two types of workshops?
Sorry, I didn't catch the difference between which and which.
The more on-field workshops, like the one about the extending your arm, or kind of workshops that we might do around lighting or composition.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, sure. I mean, there is like there's two aspects of it. There's the more kind of organized part of the workshop where, say, on Tuesday at 9 a.m. we meet in the morning, and I'm going to do 1 hour lecture, half an hour lecture on portraiture, for example. All the struggle that I go through portraiture, which I'm not really good at, and I'm really trying to struggle. And we go through the whole phenomenon of trying to take a portrait, a meaningful environmental portrait of a person. Or we're gonna next day or 2 days later, we're gonna take another, and all. It's just a matter of me going through it's very informal. And after that, walking around, we see something.
Sorry, Matthieu, I think your connection is just breaking up a little bit. I don't know if everyone else is. I think Matthew's connection is gone. Sorry about that, everybody. We might have to tie it up there because we were finishing in a few minutes anyway. But I will send him a big thank you from everybody. And if you have questions, please email us specifically at explore@ishkar.com, and we can also share them with Matthieu and get back to you on those. But thank you very much for joining us, and thank you all for your questions. We hope it was insightful as it could have been. Thank you. And yeah, if you want to take any more about the trip, the link is also above in the chat, and you've got the email address there as well.
Can you hear me?
We just ended it because we said everyone we're going because your connection lost. But
crap, yeah, I don't know what happened. There was a big drop in the connection, and then I just switched on my my hotspot.
Okay. Well, it's perfect place to tie it up anyway. But if you've got any parting words.
No, yeah, I was just wrapping things up with the idea that, that like more in the field, more spontaneous kind of part of the workshop where you can just use any opportunity that comes your way and use it as a hands-on exercise. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited to go back. So it would be end of May, right? We leave end of May, and it's 11 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
29th of May, and then yeah, but please do let us know if you're interested. So thank you guys, and thank you, Matthieu. Very much looking forward to it. It's a mix, Leila, a mix of pre-planned workshops and spontaneous.
Pre-planned workshop. Yeah, well, there is a specific itinerary, where we know where we're going to go. We have somewhat of flexibility, but we depend on places where we're going to stay at night and stuff. So we kind of stick to an itinerary that we did last year, and we're going to do it again this year. It's a good balance of potential small trekking, jeep and just cultural interaction, etc., camping. And then, so this is planned in that sense. But after that, the workshop part, there's this more planned part with lectures, but there's also very spontaneous moments where you can just yeah, do hands-on exercise on whoever we meet, whatever comes our way.
Perfect. Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Ciao,
Matthieu.
Electra. Thanks,
Thank you,
Ed.
Matthew. Bye.
Have a great evening. Ciao, ciao.